I'm Dana Han-Klein here with the filmmakers of Cars 3.
It's no secret that John Lasseter loves cars. So what was it like when John Lasseter says, hey, you guys are going to be the ones making Cars 3?
I've never directed anything before, so, my first instinct was, is he crazy? But, I've worked with John a long time. He trusted us. It was very nice. And he was always there for us. And in fact, everybody was at Pixar. It's very much a community here. Everyone has been here for so long. All the directors, everybody meets regularly about everyone's movies. And we all share notes and ideas on how to make the films as good as they can be.
Well, you feel a little bit of the weight of carrying forward with something that matters to people and matters to kids. I mean, we really get the sweetest letters from kids about what it means to them. In fact, we got this really adorable, our trailer that went out early on showed McQueen crashing. And this one little boy wrote us a letter that said, I want to know who caused the crash for McQueen so that I can get the toy of that car and then I'm going to, beat up on that car because I want to know who's responsible. So you just know that it means a lot to people, to kids that are out there. But I think as far as John goes, it's such fun to work with John, and we really actually had a lot of access to John and met with him pretty regularly to make sure that he felt like, we were hitting the right marks on the film.
So you introduced this whole new set of characters, right? How do you balance the characters we already know that we're familiar with, the storylines of these new kind of very interesting and flashy in some cases, shiny object cars?
We just try to hone in on the story we're trying to tell, and then that kind of tells us what we need. Any new characters have to be created only to service the story we're trying to tell. And then when we establish, we need a young rookie. We need somebody that makes McQueen look old, right? So then we just, as we hone in on that, then we try to find ways to make that character as interesting as possible through design and voice.
We also don't want people spending $20 going, I already saw this movie. So, you want to respect the original characters, and people do they want to see Sally, or they want to see Mater, and yet at the same time, you want your main characters to experience different characters in their journey.
One of my favorite new characters, if not favorite new character, is Cruz Ramirez.
Yes.
And my understanding is Cruz didn't start out as a female character.
That's correct.
So how did that affect sort of the course of the story?
Well, it takes us years to work on our stories. We always say that's the hardest part because it does take a long time, and we spend about 5 years on any given movie. So there's time for things to change, and I'm glad for that because I think we can have part of a good idea, which was Cruz, and when Cruz was a male character, there was something that kind of worked about it, but there was something that was sort of missing about it too. And so luckily we had the time to really toss some ideas around, and it came out like, what if we make Cruz a female? And then all of a sudden these parts of that character just clicked into place. So it was exciting to see that change. I, for one, was really excited about it. I love Cruz also, what she represents in the film. I think Cristela Alonso does a great job playing Cruz. A lot of Cristela's story influenced Cruz as well. So I love how she evolved into what she was meant to be.
The character of Cruz was, her story directly was inspired by Cristela and her experience growing up in a poor area, not having many opportunities, but wanting to be a stand-up comic. And so the story artist definitely took a lot of inspiration from Cristela herself. And the animators as well. We watched a lot of her stand-up, a lot of her TV, and we just tried to, whether it was a bit of comic timing or a mouth shape or whatever we could pull from Cristela herself. That was really important to try and get some of that in there.
And we started off with Cruz as a male character, and that was really early on. And, I have 2 daughters. I go home to 2 daughters every day. And the world was, we had a lot of factors. The world was starting to become a little too male-dominated, and it's my daughters. I want somebody on the screen that they can look up to. At the same time, there's not a lot of women in racing, right? That's changing. But in the animation world, the tech world, it's very easy to look out at the world we have right now, and in a lot of places, a lot of things are still male-dominated, and we listen to a lot of stories of women here at Pixar, and everywhere of how they feel coming up into that world and the challenges they face, and we were really inspired by that. So we wanted to be able to put that into story, and try to put forth an image of the world where, hopefully in the future there aren't any barriers. Nothing's for boys and nothing's for girls.
I think there are so many talented women here at Pixar, and seeing them rise in the ranks and hearing more of that perspective and voice. We had a fantastic writer on the show, also Keel Murray. She had a lot to do with Cruz as well. I think we get to more authentic versions of characters when we have those voices present. And so I love seeing women take leadership positions. It's an honor to be in one myself, so I'm all for it.
And then when we made the change, we originally had the actress Cristela Alonso, who's terrific. She actually just did the same lines that were written as a male character, and it was like, oh, we got to rewrite this whole thing. It doesn't work, because all of a sudden that character became sort of subservient and not as funny. Also, the character design had to be changed to reflect, I hate to say a more female character, but a more female attitude.
We originally, so when we designed Boy Cruz, as we call him, it was very sharp. He had a lot of creases, and it was it just felt sharp, for lack of a better term. We looked at, believe it or not, female volleyball players. You know, there was just a beautiful strength to girls that look like, well, that could be my daughters, you know, and they look up to people like that. And we always look at human beings. We even looked at hockey players for the Demolition Derby, with the broken noses and missing teeth. So inspiration can come from anywhere.
It's interesting that you said it didn't work, right? When you just plug it in, it doesn't work. Was there sort of a catalyst moment or scene that you went, this is why it's Cruz, this is why Cruz is a woman, like this is how it's now working? Yeah,
there's a scene in the movie where McQueen is really frustrated. For those who haven't seen it, he's extremely frustrated, and he takes it out on Cruz, and he just lets her have it. And she bites back, and she bites back hard. That's when we started to think, oh, this is her. She's got some bite to her. She's vulnerable, right? And she's got some missed opportunities, and she's got some wounds, but she's also got a bite to her that just jumped off the screen.
I was on this film for 5 years, and so I saw these characters grow up over time, and they changed greatly from year to year. I mean, month to month, day to day. Honestly, we're getting new pages of script from stories, so we're really kind of waiting for them to produce a character in the story department. Whereas we're always drawing these characters and bouncing ideas off of them as well. So, you know, these stories do grow up with art and story kind of in a feeding frenzy.
On you go! Whoa! Huh? The beach ate me.
It was very interesting, you know, it might, I don't want to say get lost on kids, but there's a lot of stuff about basically like the glass ceiling, you know, and cars dealing with, if you can call it, racism, and I know you know that you spoke to some historical like racers and stuff like that, and so at what point were you like, actually it's important to integrate this into our story as well? You know,
once we heard their stories, and once we heard about trying to be a NASCAR racer as an African American in the 60s, and trying to be a female racer in the 50s, and we're inspired by the real people who did not see barriers, right? They live in the same world, but they didn't see the barriers. But the rest of us do. We live with them. My daughters live with barriers. You know, they're afraid to do something if they think they're not going to be good at it. And we were inspired by all this, and we just thought it was really important to, this is how the world is right now, but also paint a picture of how we want it to be.
I think kids will love the colors, and I think they'll tap into, you know, Cruz's story of dreaming and wanting to be more than what, and a lot of that was inspired by Cristela herself, who, you know, we said, can you tell some of your story about being born in a border town of Texas, being poor, of being told you can't dream, you know, we clean motel rooms and we cut hair. That's what we do. And I think that anybody who's dreamed of being something more than what they are will tap into it, whether you're a kid or an adult.
When we got to do the research for this trip, I didn't start as like a NASCAR superfan or anything like that. And then I felt so lucky because here I am sitting down with some of the legends of the sport. But I love sitting down and hearing anybody's story. Everybody has an amazing, interesting story to tell. And the chances to do that always inspire me. What people have come up against, like for example, we have two characters in our film who are based on the first female racer, Louise Smith. Ours is Louise Nash. Nash was the car she drove. And River Scott, who's based on Wendell Scott, who's the first African American racer. And what they were up against to be in the sport, just seeing that passion, overcoming that, You know, whatever anybody else had to do, they had to do 5 times more. So I think we love, that was just such an inspiring story, and I love that we captured it in some small amount. They're friends of Doc's, and they're not huge roles, but they are in the movie, and they do refer to what they had to overcome.
Was there ever a point where you thought about having McQueen retire entirely, or was it important to have him continue racing? Because for me, it would have been interesting, potentially, if he really truly passed the torch and like switched to mentoring, or is that for Cars 4?
We had that idea, you know, McQueen retiring, McQueen doesn't retire. We had McQueen wins a race, McQueen doesn't win a race.
Yeah.
We went through a lot of permutations.
We just kind of looked at it as we didn't want to completely close any doors, but it's the story we're telling, you know, at the same time. What's important to him? At the end of the day, the end of the movie can be summarized by where's McQueen at and what is now important to him. And I think that's on the screen.
And let's be honest, anyone who's passionate about anything, it's hard to like you can't make people retire, you know, you pry it out of my cold dead hands. Like,
You're trying to make me retire.
there was one thing you wish more people knew about, that sort of the challenges and work you put into making an animated film. What would it be?
That it's a lot of work. Putting it, well, when people ask what's so hard, he says story and I say mud. Because when you see the figure 8 race, all that mud was created, and we didn't know we couldn't do mud when the TVs came to us. John Reich, who's our effects suit, said, well, you know, we can't do mud. And then you'd look at your dance card and there'd be a 1 o'clock mud meeting, and you'd gloppy mud, dry mud, caked mud, falling off mud, all that.
And I think people are surprised to find out we can't go out and shoot a live action film in the woods and all the trees are for free. We have to make every leaf, every rock on the ground. It all has to be created from scratch.
Well, thank you so much. Congratulations on the film.
Wearing lightning red.